I'm in Japan, which is incredibly exciting. And we're starting our trip here in Tokyo, specifically in Asakusa. So we're actually staying just around the corner from Sensuji Temple. And if you've been here before, you might recognize this street. This is a big shopping street, and during the day, this is absolutely heaving, like wall-to-wall people up and down the street. But obviously, right now, it's about 5:30 in the morning before the sun's come up, so I've come out to do a little bit of photography. So the thing with this location is, in the evenings, it gets lit up like really well. But when we're here in November, sunset is around 4:30. So even at 4:30 p.m. when the sun's coming down, obviously it's still really, really busy here. So I've come this morning, like I said, at 5:30. A lot of the lights aren't on, but what I'm doing is finding compositions that do have some light. There's a little bit of light in these kind of shops here on the side. There's a little bit of light on the temple over there as well. And I just came up with my first shot back here, actually in between the pillars. I just came into the light to film this little bit, but just through there, right down the middle, a couple of pillars framing the main temple at the end here. And then also we are including these kind of fortune teller / charm shops on either side. And the lights of those are actually reflecting really nicely in the lights on the tiles on the ground. So yeah, a bit of a recommendation for you. If you're in the city, definitely get out really early to try and avoid the crowds a little bit. And don't let the weather put you off. Like, it's raining a lot right now, but I don't hate it, to be honest with you. It's leaving a really nice reflection on the tiles on the ground, so it's actually working in my favour, I'd say, this morning. But full disclosure, I did also come and shoot here yesterday morning when it was a little bit drier, so I've got both options now. So a great way to sneak a little bit of photography in on a holiday. If you get up so early before everyone else, no one's annoyed that you're shooting all morning. For my second shot this morning, I've come up the stairs of the main temple here. And again, I'm using a lot of the kind of pillars as a natural frame for the gate further down the road here. And that's working really, really well. I've already taken my images this morning, as is the kind of YouTube way. But earlier on, there was actually a bit more light kind of on the roof here and on this lantern, and that was working really, really well. So that was all lit up. But a couple of tips as well for this kind of photography in the morning here is, obviously I've got those lights on, but then everything else is quite dark because it's so early still. So I am shooting a couple of brackets, a couple of different exposures for these images. I'm shooting one to expose correctly for the lights, and then one to expose correctly for the shadows. And then I'm going to combine both of those together. I'm not sure if I prefer the wetter image this morning than the one I took the other day, but once I edit them together, I'll decide and I'll show you the one I prefer. But I mean, this is a pretty awesome start to my trip here in Japan. Incredible temples that kind of work in any weather, and avoiding the crowds by getting up early. You can probably just about see here on the back of my camera that what I've aimed to do here is I've got some pillars on the right hand side here and in the centre, and that's framing the gate further down the path there. So I'm using that as a bit of a natural frame. Got the stairs running up, or the stair handrail running up into the left hand side here, and I'm filling that left hand corner with that lantern. Like I mentioned, there was a little bit more light in the ceiling there lighting up this section, but I think in general that composition really kind of captures the temple and captures the atmosphere. And I love having these lanterns on and the lights in the shops as well. Now, I don't know if you've seen these things before, but they seem to have these at a lot of the temples in Japan, is a little way to tell your fortune. But let me show you how this works. So firstly, 100 yen, pop it in here, and then you give this a little bit of a shake up, and you get a stick that comes out of the top there, and that comes with a number, corresponding number you pull out of the tray. And then in the tray there is a different fortune. It can be regular, it can be good, or it can be bad. I've already done one of those here and it was bad fortune, which is unfortunate for the first day of my trip. But if you have bad fortune, what you can do is tie it on these racks here, and then you leave your bad fortune here at the temple and don't have to take it with you for the rest of your trip. So fingers crossed that's worked out and I'm going to get some great pictures for the rest of my trip. I've got to say, I just love all these like vending machines they seem to have everywhere in Japan. Like they're all kind of these neon bright colours, and they're set amongst the most traditional buildings. Like even this one here is right in the heart of the temple. You've got this kind of traditional looking hut here and just this neon bright vending machine right in the middle of it. So I think over my time here in Japan, these are going to offer some really great kind of street photography images, especially at night time with the reflections and just the kind of neon contrast to the traditional buildings. But yeah, I'm excited to explore those as we make our way around Japan. There are so many vending machines in this temple complex. It's almost a bit weird. There's like 30 of them, I think, scattered in and around the place. And look at this one here. Like I said before, we've got 3 vending machines, ancient Buddha statue in the background. And I love that contrast. I think that really sums up Japan. You've almost got this kind of cyberpunk-esque neon technology, and then in the background that ancient architecture and those ancient statues. Super cool to kind of get both in one place like that. At these temple complexes, framing is definitely the name of the game. There are just so many kind of gates and pillars and everything you can put your subject in between, so it's hard to not do that, to be honest. And I found another little place here at the Sunsiji temple. This is a kind of shrine off in the far north corner, in the northeast corner. And you've got this beautiful grey gate, we've got these lovely yellow trees, and then we've got the red kind of lit up temple just back there as well. So I can kind of frame the temple with the gate and with the trees and get what I suppose is going to be quite a kind of traditional looking Japanese image. So the wet weather has gotten the better of me this morning now. It's pretty damp, pretty grey out here, pretty gross. But to be fair, I did still get a couple of images that I really like. So it goes to show getting up at 5:30 in the morning, coming out to these locations when there is very few people around is always worthwhile. Even in the rain, these temples really do offer a lot of opportunity for photography. So definitely glad I came out, and now I have a new obsession with Japanese vending machines, I think. So this is now my second morning of photography here in Japan, and I'm in a small town called Takayama, a small mountain town in the kind of Hida Valley, I believe. Very famous for its beef and lots of beautiful traditional buildings around here. It's actually a bit quieter than some of the other places like you might find in Kyoto and similar places that look like this. But during the day, again, it is still pretty busy, so I've come out here at kind of 5, 6 in the morning, and we've got some absolutely beautiful fall foliage. I'm just kind of trying to walk around and find some compositions in amongst the buildings, encompassing the traditional architecture and that fall foliage. So the first little composition that I have for this morning is just kind of down the main street. I've got this really beautiful kind of old tree on the right-hand side of my frame with a kind of traditional looking lantern. And then in the background, we've got lots of reds, yellows and greens and lots of lovely foliage up in the hills there. Let me show you what I've got here on the camera. So you might just about be able to see this here. We've got this really beautiful kind of very traditional looking Japanese tree heading up the right-hand side here. This lantern, got the lovely buildings, and then in the background here as well, we've got all of this lovely foliage. One thing I don't really like is this traffic light out in the distance here. So I don't know, we'll see if we leave that in or not in post, but it's a beautiful little scene. Now, I wouldn't say this scene behind me here is traditionally Japanese, but I kind of love it. There's something about the buildings here, even the more modern ones, that do still look very Japanese. And even if they look a little bit run down, a little bit dirty, a little bit boarded up, there's still some kind of like really grungy Asian aesthetic to it that I really like. So just down the river here, obviously, we've got the river leading through the image. There's a lot of koi carps swimming around. Might not be able to pick those up in the image, but still pretty cool. And yeah, we've got all these buildings kind of reflecting in the river, and then this beautiful kind of path leading down on the left-hand side here, and a lovely bit of fall foliage. It's a shame we're not really getting any kind of exciting cloud or anything this morning, but I'm really enjoying shooting out here in Japan and just trying to maybe get less obvious shots in what are beautiful towns. So a fair few pictures in the bag from my Japanese trip so far, and as I mentioned, the next stop is Kyoto, which is really where I've come to do the majority of my photography. So if you want to see what it's like to photograph in Kyoto, where to photograph, and what images I get, be sure to subscribe. And once again, thank you so much for watching.